Hi, welcome to the AJ Sports Show, first of the 2025 season. Yeah, we made it all the way to 2025. Alright, so I did record one for the college football's week 1, and I did my predictions. So I predicted on every single team record, but I don't know what happened to that video. When I was gonna be ready to post it, I'm gonna do a little edit and just kind of show you my predictions. Like I had a screenshot of my predictions. I was gonna show it. When I was ready to edit that video, put that in it, it was gone just like that. So yeah, that officially sucked. So I don't have that video no more, but here I am, ready to record college football's week 2 and the NFL's week 1. Hopefully, this time, the video just doesn't disappear when I'm ready to upload it. So, here we go. Alright, I'm going to breeze through college football, then I'll really get a little bit more in depth to the NFL's. Because in college football, there's just so many teams, so many games, it's hard to keep up with all of them. Alright, I'll go for the major ones. Alright, let's go for my two teams first. I'm an Oklahoma fan. Oklahoma beats Michigan 24-13. Game kind of went like I expected. Bryce Underwood makes his first start in a hostile environment, which he doesn't go too well. He went 9 for 24, 142 yards. No touchdowns, no picks. Didn't get to run a lot. Michigan's running game, they broke off that 175-yard touchdown with Justice Hayes, but the running game was shut down all but one play. John Mateer, he did it through the running and the passing game. He played pretty well. Special teams just had a couple gaffes. But man, the problem with Oklahoma right now is they don't have a traditional running game. Yes, John Mateer's running for a lot of yards. 19 carries, 74 yards, kind of a Colin Klein style of running. But isn't that the most sustainable running game? No. Especially not in the SEC where it is just cutthroat. And Oklahoma's schedule in the second half of the season is going to get absolutely brutal. But they do get to celebrate a good win at home against a good Michigan team. So I'm happy about that. And Purdue beats Southern Illinois 34-17, although they have USC next. That's going to determine if Purdue is a respectable team or garbage. That game will literally decide for you. All right. Other games. Ohio State blows out Grambling 7-0. Yay. Penn State blows out FIU 34-0. Yay. LSU actually kind of struggled a little bit against Louisiana Tech. They won 23-7. Wasn't all that impressive. So neither did Georgia. Georgia only won 28-6. Didn't look that impressive while doing it. Miami beats Bethune-Cookman. Oregon destroys Oklahoma State. Texas destroys San Jose State. Clemson. They were actually down. I believe they were down 16-0 against Troy. They would win 27-16, but Clemson did not look good doing it. Illinois blows out Duke. South Carolina wins. Mississippi State upset Arizona State 24-20. Oh, here. Let's get to the good one here. South Florida beats Florida 18-16. Sunbelt Billy is back, ladies and gentlemen. Billy Napier, being a garbage head coach, not be able to recruit compared to the other SEC teams. Just being in a total basement. Sunbelt Billy, welcome back, buddy. It's not like we missed you, Mr. Sunbelt Billy. Yes, I do call him Sunbelt Billy because, yes, that nickname has already been out. I didn't create the nickname Sunbelt Billy, but once I heard that nickname, it fits perfectly because he's the worst coach Florida has had really since before Steve Spurrier took over. Yes, you did have Jim McElwain, who wasn't all that great. Then you had Will Muschamp, who had one great season. Dan Mullen, who couldn't get over the hump against the good teams. But, yeah, I mean, considering how brutal Florida's schedule is going to be, it is time to fire Sunbelt Billy. Billy Napier has to go. I'm sorry. He has to go Florida just needs a new direction. Simple as that. He has to go. All right. Florida State beats a middle school team. Yay. Iowa State beats Iowa 16-13. Another classic Iowa State game where it's a defensive struggle. Iowa State comes up top again. I think it was the same kicker that kicked the game-winning field goal last year. Baylor upsets SMU 48-45 in a shootout. A&M beats Utah State. Ole Miss beats Kentucky 30-23. Alabama blows out elementary school. So did Tennessee. So did IU. So did Texas Tech. So did Utah. So did Minnesota. NC State beat Virginia 35-31. Syracuse beats UConn 27-20. What else do we got? Missouri beats Kansas in the war border rivalry 42-31. So Missouri's 2-0. Kansas, even though they lost, they look to be a pretty good team. Fresno State beats Oregon State. Cincinnati beats Bowling Green. What else do we have here? Ohio beats West Virginia. Wow. West Virginia, you look bad. What else do we have? North Carolina beats Charlotte, but they did not look good doing it. Kansas State looks to be completely garbage. They lost to Army, the same Army team that lost to... I don't even know who the heck they lost to. They lost to a team that I never even heard of. So, yeah, congratulations. Vanderbilt's 2-0. They beat Virginia Tech 44-20. Virginia Tech looks to be awful this year. That doesn't surprise me. UNLV beats UCLA 30-23. Wow. Good job, Nico. Nico, I'ma leave. That's your new name now. Nico, I'ma leave. Seriously, somebody needs to make a parody song, I'ma leave, sampling to Black Eyed Peas' I'ma Me. If someone does that is going to be comedy. Please, somebody make it. Alright. NFL's Week 1. Let's get this out of the way. The Thursday night, Cowboys versus Eagles. The first half was a shootout. Second half was a defensive struggle. The Cowboys did compete a little bit better than I think most of us thought they were. Javonte Williams did decent on the ground. Dak played okay. CD, he had 100 yards receiving today, that day, but he had a few bad drops too, which Cowboys fans are, yeah. But Eagles, they just played methodical football. Mostly they just ground and pound the Cowboys to death. Saquon and Jalen Hurts did run. Even Will Shipley got a couple good carries. And the Eagles' best receiver that day was Jahan Dotson. Yeah. Didn't he play at TCU? Let's take a look. Wasn't he at TCU? No, he's Penn State. Oh, yeah, I forgot. Him and Trace McSorley. I forgot about that. But the main story of that game was obviously Jalen Carter getting ejected within 6 seconds of the game by pulling a Bill Romanowski. He spit on Dak Prescott. Jalen Carter. There's a reason why you slid in the draft. Because you do dumb stuff like that. Although he's lucky he did not get a suspension. Probably would have warranted. But Eagles start 24-20. They 1-0. Cowboys already looking like they're regretting trading away Micah Parsons. This is why you don't take forever to extend your guys. Good job, Jerry Jones. All right. We had the Friday night game. This was in Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Chiefs and the Chargers. The Chargers would go on to win 27-21. Justin Herbert probably played the best game of his career. 318 yards, 3 touchdowns. Quentin Johnston had a good day. Lad McConkey, Keenan Allen, even Tyler Conklin caught some balls. The Chiefs' offense played okay, but Chargers just played a little bit better. And so Chargers starts 1-0. This is a very good start for the Chargers because I didn't think the Chargers were going to do well once they lost their best tackle, Rashawn Slater, due to a knee injury. So I thought the Chargers was going to struggle offensively. Well, that was not the case for Week 1. They get a nice 1-0 start. Alright, as a Colts fan, I had a field day watching this game. They absolutely obliterated the Dolphins 33-8. Daniel Jones probably had the best day throwing the ball since that wild card game against the Vikings a few years ago. The running game was solid and methodical. Michael Pittman and Tyler Warren were tearing it up on the receiving end. The defense forced 3 turnovers. That defense looked a completely different defense I saw last year. But obviously it's week 1. And, taking this game, kind of reviewing this game, I don't think it's much of how impressive the Colts look, but just how awful the Dolphins are going to be this year. Tua just looked lost. Tua just does not look like the same quarterback after all those concussions. He just does not look like himself, and I don't know if we might see the Tua Tagovailoa that we saw earlier this career ever again. Tyreek Hill already looks like he's going to crash out. That offensive line that the Dolphins had couldn't block much. And that Dolphins defense was trash. It was trash. I mean, the Colts offensive line. I mean, Daniel Jones had the best protection he had in his entire career. Daniel Jones was only pressured a couple times. He was only sacked 1 time. So, the Colts just straight up bullied the Dolphins, 33-8. So it's going to be hard for me to take this from the Colts fans' perspective because I'm just focused on how god-awful the Dolphins are going to be, and they're going to be bad. They're going to be brutally bad. All right, next game, the Buccaneers and the Falcons. This ended up being a competitive game. The Bucs won 23-20. Baker Mayfield had an okay day. He only completed 60% of his passes for 167 yards. But he did toss 3 touchdowns, no picks. The running game was okay. Emeka Egbuka had a very good debut. 4 catches, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Michael Penix Jr., he looked okay. The Falcons' running game went absolutely nowhere, but Penix was slinging it. 298 yards. Bijan Robinson had 100 yards as a running back. But the most brutal part of the game for the Falcons was that missed field goal by Younghoe Koo. Yeah, I have him on one of my fantasy teams, by the way, so that kind of hurt. But, alright, Bengals and Browns. I don't even want to talk about this game. This game was so bad. Both offenses were absolutely trash. And I think this kind of game is a byproduct of usually in the first few weeks of the season, the defenses are more ahead of schedule than the offenses. And I think you're not going to find not many better examples than the Bengals and the Browns. Joe Burrow didn't look great. The running game was going nowhere. The Browns' running game was even worse. Joe Flacco threw a lot of yards, but he threw 2 picks. And the Browns missed a field goal. I think they also missed an extra point. This was kind of a game where the Bengals were lucky they won this game because if they played a team that executed a tiny bit better on offense, they would lose. Raiders and the Patriots. The Raiders won 20-13. Kind of another game where the defenses were ahead of schedule. Even though the quarterbacks threw for a bunch of yards, it was still kind of a low-scoring game. Cardinals and Saints. The Cardinals would win 20-13. Kyler Murray played decent. The running game that the Cardinals had was decent. The Saints, this is what's going to be for their entire season. They're going to absolutely be trash. There's nothing much to discuss about that game. Here's a lot to discuss about this game. Steelers and Jets. This was an absolute shootout. Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked this good since 2021. And Justin Fields played one of the best games of his entire career. He looked poised. He looked confident. He looked like he knew where he was going with the ball. Breece Hall actually played well, which last year was a rarity for Breece Hall. He was kind of a cock tease where he just looked mediocre despite his talent. But this game was back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth. And then the game kind of ends on a 60-yard field goal by Chris Boswell. And he kicked that thing with no problem. There was a time when 60-yard field goals were a novelty. And yet, we see so many kickers nailing those without breaking a sweat. And Chris Boswell, he might just be the best kicker in the NFL. So the Steelers, a team that likes has-beens, they didn't look like has-beens in week 1. They look good. Although that defense needs to get better. Most expensive defense of football, by the way. All right, Giants and Commanders. Ugh. Man, the Commanders didn't play all that great. If the Commanders didn't have a good running game, they probably would not win this game. But even without a running game, the Commanders still would have won because the Giants are terrible. The Giants suck. And the biggest reason why they suck, they don't have an offensive line to speak of. I mean, Russell Wilson did not play good, but no quarterback's going to play good if you have no time in the pocket. How is a running back supposed to do any good if they don't have any rushing lanes? I mean, the Giants did not score a single touchdown. It was 21-6, Commanders win. Brian Dable's ass is on that hot seat. He might get third-degree burns from the seat that he's sitting because he might get fired. And another person that might need to get fired is that GM. But the Giants are bad. All right, Jaguars beat the Panthers comfortably 26-20. It's basically what it is the Jaguars beat a terrible team. Because the Panthers are terrible. So the Jaguars, they went out. They did what they had to do, which was beat up on a trash team. Here's another case where a team does what they have to do and beat a trash team. The Broncos, 20-12. Their defense dominated. Their offense looked pedestrian. Bo Nix did not play very well. He played like the first half of his rookie season last year, where he was terrible, before the second half of the season where he looked good. That's kind of what happened in this game. The Broncos were able to kind of get off with their running game and just their defense suffocating on Cam Ward. Dear gosh, Cam Ward's going to get ruined. And why is Brian Callahan still their head coach? Why is Brian Callahan bad? All right, he's the son of Bill Callahan. That's why. Yeah. Titans trash. Seahawks beat the 49ers beat the Seahawks 17-13. Another example where defenses are ahead of schedule. Kind of a low-scoring game. Seahawks were up much of the game, but the Niners scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. Brock Purdy threw for 2 touchdowns, but he did throw 2 picks. Sam Darnold didn't play great. The running game was not great. And on top of that, Brock Purdy might miss a couple games. They already are without Brandon Ayuk. George Kittle's going to miss some games. This might be a repeat of last year for the Niners, where every single player worth anything gets injured. If that happens again, there's going to be a lot of tough decisions going to be made in that front office. Packers and Lions. I think what we saw is a statement win. A statement win for the Packers. The Packers obviously made a huge acquisition to trade for Micah Parsons, try to get themselves over the edge. The Lions are, of course, without their 2 great coordinators. And the Packers kind of just send a message to the Lions that Detroit, we're the kings of the NFC North. And the Packers kind of controlled this game, literally from the first snap. Jordan Love was efficient, threw 2 touchdowns, no picks. The running game was decent with Josh Jacobs. The running game for the Lions went absolutely nowhere. Jared Goff played okay, but not good enough to beat what is essentially a better team. Texans and Rams. The Rams won 14-9. Another example that the defenses are ahead of schedule. The Texans' offense looks pedestrian. They're really missing Joe Mixon. They're kind of waiting for Tank Dell to come back because they don't have a receiver game to speak of. Stafford played okay. The running game was okay, but that was a kind of example where an okay offense beats an offense that couldn't get anything going. All right, two games. The last 2 games were interesting. Sunday nighter, Ravens and the Bills might have been the best Week 1 game maybe ever. For the most part, the Ravens kind of were in control of this game. They led 20-13 at halftime. In the fourth quarter, it was 40-25. But then, late in the, kind of midway through the fourth quarter, the Bills scored a touchdown to make it an 8-point game. And then the very next possession, the Ravens, Derrick Henry fumbles, which Derrick Henry was blasting the Bills all game long until that fumble. Bills get the ball back from the turnover. They score quickly. They did not get the 2-point conversion, so it's a 2-point game. The Ravens went 3-and-out, and then Josh Allen led the game-winning drive and the game-winning field goal by Matt Prater. Yes, Matt Prater. He's still in the league. Josh Allen did Josh Allen things. He flew for almost 400 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 2 more. Keon Coleman looks to be potentially the number 1 wide receiver of that team. Khalil Shakir, Joshua Palmer are good. Dalton Kincaid looks good. The Ravens' offense looked good. Lamar was killing it, both in the run and pass. Derrick Henry, like I said, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did have that very costly fumble. For both of these teams, it's basically, defense has got to be better on both teams. And I think that will happen. I think this was a case where both offenses just were firing on all cylinders. And it made for one hell of a game. It was a wonderful game. Monday nighter, Vikings-Bears. The Bears were actually up most of this game. The first drive, Caleb Williams actually started 10 for 10. And then he just looked pedestrian after that. But the Bears at one point were up 17-6. And then by the fourth quarter, after the missed field goal early in the fourth quarter, everything just fell apart for the Vikings. The Vikings scored 21 unanswered points. So it was 27-17. But then the Bears finally got a good drive in. They score. And then I don't know what they were faking. I don't know. This was both Ben Johnson, the special teams coordinator. It's 2:02 left on the clock. They only had 1 timeout. The one thing that the Bears could not allow was a kickoff return. Would you like to know what the Bears did? Allow a kickoff return. Yep, the 2-minute warning is already used without the Vikings actually running a play. Yes, the Bears get the 3-and-out, but the Bears had absolutely no time to work with. Good job, Ben Johnson. That was one wonderful debut, wasn't it, sir? That was bad. So Ben Johnson better get it together, or it might be another long season. They take on the Lions. Does not look good. They need to look better than that. All right, so let's go. Let's kind of do a quick preview of some of the games that are. The Thursday nighter, Commanders and Packers. That's going to be a fun game. Give me the Packers because it's at Lambeau Field. Like I said a little earlier, the Colts have their big test against the Broncos. It is at Indy. Bengals, Jags, Giants, Cowboys, Bears, Lions, Rams, Titans, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. That's going to be a funny game. Both teams are garbage. 49ers and Saints. Saints could actually win this game because everybody in the Niners is injured again. Bills and Jets. That could be a sneaky, interesting game. Seahawks and Steelers. Ravens, Browns and Ravens. Panthers and Cardinals. Then you got the Eagles and the Chiefs, which is a Super Bowl rematch. Then your Sunday nighter is the Falcons and the Vikings. And then you get 2 Monday nighters. You get a doubleheader. Buccaneers, Texans, Chargers, Raiders. Those are your matchups for week 2. All right, college football's week 3. Let's go for this. All right, for the IU fans, you taking on Indiana State. That should be an easy win. Oklahoma has Temple. Clemson, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech can genuinely win this game. Wisconsin, Alabama. Georgia takes on Tennessee. That's an early, big SEC matchup. South Florida, Miami. South Florida is actually ranked. So Miami, do not look past South Florida. Don't do it. Arkansas, Ole Miss. Florida and LSU. LSU is going to destroy Florida. Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Vanderbilt and South Carolina. That could be a sneaky good game. So kind of a quiet week. There are some interesting matchups. Usually like the first 5 weeks, there isn't that many great matchups. Once you get into like where all the teams are in their conference play, that's when you get the juicy matchups. Like all those big games. There are a few of them. Clemson and Georgia Tech, I see that as a big game. South Florida, Miami, that has the potential to be a really big game. Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Vanderbilt, South Carolina. So it's going to be a little bit more of a quiet week free, but as we know, sometimes when it's supposed to be a quiet week, there could be some very big chaos. Let's see. What are some non-ranked matchups that could get interesting? Let's take a look. Colorado, Houston, Kansas State, Arizona, USC and Purdue. All right. What else do we have here? Any interesting Pitt and West Virginia? That rivalry. What else do we have? I'm scrolling down as I look at this. Nothing, really. Yeah, so it's going to be kind of a quiet week 3, but there's your recap of the last football week. College football's week 2, NFL's week 1. And I'm looking forward to record the post game next week. So that'll be it for this first episode of this football season, and thanks for watching.